This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN.
Welcome to this edition of PHRC Speaks, Fair Housing in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Adrian Garcia, Director of Enforcement for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Civil rights is a team sport that can only be considered a victory when social justice is actually attained. It takes multiple divisions of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission to achieve social justice, and today we will be speaking with two of our team members whose role it is to promote the mission of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, which is to eradicate discrimination throughout the Commonwealth. But why is this important, you might ask? According to one U.S. study, job resumes with traditionally white-sounding names receive 50% more callbacks than those traditionally with black names. According to the Census Bureaus, it shows that women of all races earned, on an average, just 82 cents for every $1 earned by a man. More than 4 million instances of housing discrimination occur each year, and the vast majority are unreported. In one U.S. survey, 15.8% of students reported experiencing race-based bullying or harassment, according to studies. 3 complaints of race discrimination in public accommodations are filed for every 100,000 adults of color each year, according to UCLA School of Law. Those are just some of the examples of why this work is needed and important to the pursuit of social justice. Our guests today represent the tip of the PHRC social justice spear, as they work tirelessly to promote and educate on the mission and initiatives of the agency throughout the Commonwealth. Khera Bowman is an education and outreach coordinator in the education division of the PHRC. She serves as a liaison to the PHRC's advisory councils, encouraging them to advocate, plan events, trainings, and discussions that educate and celebrate the diversity within their communities. She has her bachelor's degree in mass communications and a minor in visual communications from York College of Pennsylvania. Previously, she served as the communications coordinator for the York City School District, which currently reflects in her outreach efforts with districts around the state. Brittany Mellinger is an experienced fair housing educator and program manager. Prior to joining the PHRC, she served as director of the Housing Equality and Equity Institute at Tenfold, where she worked to foster community housing resources and cultivate fair housing knowledge. Brittany has a master's in public health from Temple University, which she used in her prior work at Broad Street Ministry, an organization dedicated to providing radical hospitality and connecting housing insecure adults with the resources they need to thrive. And now I welcome you both to PHRC Speaks. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to be here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. And first, I ask this of every guest. Let's talk about your respective journeys in this social justice sphere. What led you, Khera, to this job, to this work?
So what led me to the work at the PHRC is the education system. So growing up, I lived in more of a suburban community compared to where I worked at in the education field, which was an inner city school district. So seeing kind of just the differences in the school districts led me to kind of the fight in social justice, because some schools didn't have, the inner city school districts didn't have the resources that they need in order to succeed compared to suburban school districts that were already equipped with the materials. And what's really kind of shocked me was that the back to school events at the inner city school districts, where the kids didn't already have the resources that they need, the back to school event kind of allowed them to get those resources, compared to growing up in my school district, which was more of a suburban school district. We weren't asked to get those materials. They were already provided to us in the classrooms, and the only thing that we needed was a backpack. So just seeing those differences and not equal treatment for these students and opportunities is what led me to the work.
Okay. Brittany, how about you? Tell me about your social justice journey.
Sure. Well, I'd say it started all the way back in childhood. My parents really instilled a strong sense of responsibility to act for justice and to pursue what was right. When I graduated from college and started in the workplace, I was working with adults experiencing homelessness, and seeing that really instilled the importance of having a a quality home and to know how easy it is to lose your home and to find yourself in situations that you never imagined that you would be in. When I got my degree in public health, that really enforced how important housing is to well-being. So really taking these various experiences brought me into the fair housing space where I'm working to make sure that there's equal opportunities for everyone in housing.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so, Khera, let me follow up. You mentioned a little bit about the differences and how you grew up and you saw some of these differences, but what have you seen now that you're at PHRC and you're following this social justice path? What are some of the differences that you're seeing now?
So
does it confirm what you believed back then?
So I feel as if it still kind of does confirm because, for example, my school district, which was a suburban school district, we had sports in our school. So students had the opportunities to play sports from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade compared to inter-school city district where, you know, they have to kind of go out to find these opportunities for them, either through the YMCA or just other leagues in order to be even involved in sports. So that's just one of the differences that I've seen other than materials and resources that were readily available to them.
Sure. Brittany, I want to do a follow-up with you as well. You mentioned, and I mentioned your degree in public health. What is that correlation between health and housing?
Sure. So in the field of public health, we often talk about social determinants of health. So the things in your environment, the resources that you have that really influence your health and the health of communities. So the built environment and housing is really crucial to that. Without having a safe place that you know you're going to be able to return to know that your kids are going to be able to be healthy and free from risks to your health like lead and pests and radon and mold, it's really hard to live a stable and healthy life.
Do you find, sorry for this follow-up, but do you find that it does come through in social justice, in other words, in the civil rights field, that disparity in housing, do you see that often? Do you see that play out?
Absolutely. So in the years that I've been working in fair housing, I've seen that time after time when you look at the people that are most impacted by housing conditions, whether it's being evicted, whether it's having unsafe housing conditions, being unable to obtain rental housing, it's the individuals that are in protected classes that suffer these impacts the most. So older adults, people with disabilities, families with kids, people of color, we see that the opportunities to obtain housing just aren't equal in our country.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And so, Khera, let me ask you, since joining the PHRC, when we're talking about civil rights and social justice, what has surprised you about, now that you're working here, what has surprised you in that realm of civil rights and social justice?
For me, I would say, since working with the advisory councils, I was able to kind of see that, it's just not in your community that it's happening in, unfortunately. It's happening in all these communities all over the 67 counties. So working with the advisory councils allowed me to just see that there still needs work that needs to be done. And then just an initiative that the PHRC is doing, the Beloved Community Tour, where our executive director is going around to these communities and listening to the concerns of the community and really just having that face-to-face interaction. So just knowing that it's happening in these other communities and addressing the problem and letting them express their concerns.
Excellent, thank you. So let me focus on your individual roles because you're kind of in the same role, but it kind of splinters off and you have different responsibilities. So I'll start with you, Brittany. Tell me about your role as it pertains to the work of the PHRC.
Sure. So most of my work is in the housing space. So I do community education. So I put together trainings, I coordinate training requests, put together written materials, really make sure that the resources are there for community members, for social service providers, landlords, lenders, local government officials, anyone that's active in the housing space, so that way they fully understand their rights and responsibilities. I also work with some advisory councils, which really provide good community connections to the issues that we're seeing throughout the state, and they really inform our work and help us to be able to get the word out regarding housing, as well as all of our other spheres of work into communities through those councils as well.
Khera?
For me, I'm with the education division, so I fall under education. And like Brittany said, we work with the advisory councils as one of our kind of connections between each other. But other than that, we do a lot of outreach events, trainings for schools. So an outreach event that we just did was attended a career fair. So that we're able to connect with these students and offer them these materials that the PHRC has to just let them know that we are here in these school systems. So we do a lot of work under the education realm.
All right, so just for the benefit of our viewers, there is a correlation between housing and education. And we saw some time ago, and we can see because of historic redlining patterns that this investment occurred in those traditionally red-lined areas, and that affected not only tax assessments, the quality of property, the upkeep of property, the kind of neighbors you would have, but it also affected education because of that investment and employment. So in case any of our viewers are looking for that correlation, it's very closely connected. So you mentioned the councils. Why are the councils so vital to the effort of eradicating discrimination throughout the Commonwealth? And I'll go with you, Khera, first.
So our advisory councils are our eyes and ears in the community. So they kind of let us know what's happening in their communities, any concerns that they're seeing, issues on the rise, and they communicate that back to the PHRC liaison for the council, and then that liaison would communicate it with senior management, and then just kind of figure out ways to address the problem. But they're our eyes and our ears, and they really kind of just let us know what's happening.
So Brittany, let me ask you, are you able to share the types of issues being shared with you from your councils without calling any community out, obviously, but what kind of issues are you hearing?
Sure. Well, all across the state, we hear that there are issues with having enough affordable housing. Folks really struggling to be able to obtain housing. But we've also heard about local policies that councils have reported that might displace people of color from their housing. We've heard about housing opportunities being lost and people just seeking to know more information about their rights, wanting more educational opportunities, forums, trainings, things like that. So it really spans a wide variety of issues.
Khera, what kind of issues are you hearing from your councils?
So some of the issues that I'm seeing in my advisory councils are the changing demographics of the population of students. So a lot of families are moving in and they're not seeing that representation on the school staff or in office. So it just really kind of affects the students not being able to see someone in a position of power that looks like them. So that's just some of the issues that I'm seeing right now.
So let me ask this, and this is completely off script, and either of you could choose to answer it. Why is that important? Why is it important to reflect the community that organizations are serving? I know it's all script, but give me your opinion. What do you think? How is that helpful?
I can jump in. So for me, I think it's important because just seeing someone that looks like you in that position of power allows you to see that there are opportunities presented to you and that, you know, the sky's the limit, to say the least. Like you have someone that looks like you and you want to strive to be something like that. Especially as a student, you look for those opportunities to grow and be successful. So seeing someone like you as a teacher or as a principal allows you those opportunities.
Yeah, and for the benefit of our viewers, I just wanted to have kind of an idea of that, because I'm sure many of our viewers would be asking, well, why is that a big deal? And so thank you for answering that. Brittany, let me ask you this. Do the advisory councils act as local human relations commissions? Is that what their role is?
No, local human relations commissions are completely separate. So local human relations commissions are empowered by their ordinances, and they seek to enforce those ordinances to prevent discrimination. Advisory councils are a function of the State Human Relations Commission, where we work. So they're great partners. They work together really closely to understand and address local issues, to outreach together. But they are two completely separate entities, and the goal is never to duplicate services, but to work together to address community issues.
And so is there a clear distinction? I mean, do the councils understand that their role is primarily outreach and some education, or what kind of steps does a PHRC take to ensure their understanding of their role?
Oh, sure. Well, when advisory council members join, they receive training. When we get new advisory councils started, we always make sure that they're trained and fully understand at least the basics of,
Sure.
of the Human Relations Act, which is our law, and how advisory councils are empowered to act, to connect with local community members, as Khera was saying, like when there are complaints, to address that, to do outreach, to foster partnerships, and whenever they have questions, they've got Khera and I to provide guidance as well.
Very good. Khera, let me ask, there's another initiative that was introduced by the PHRC, the Social Justice Ambassador Program. Can you share your perspective regarding this program and how it helps the mission of the PHRC?
Mm-hmm. So the Social Justice Ambassadors Program, we're trying to get an ambassador in each of the 67 counties. So it allows an opportunity for someone that may be interested in our work and advancing social justice in their communities. It allows them the opportunity to be that one person in their county, to have people of their community come to them and ask for resources, and them just being able to guide them back to the PHRC to file complaints, compared to advisory councils where you do need 8 members in order to start an advisory council. So it just allows other people to get involved in allowing that opportunity for an ambassador in each of the 67 counties.
And can a member of a council be an ambassador as well, or is that like strictly against protocol? Or
They're allowed to also be an ambassador, so they have the opportunity to be a part of both.
what do you look for that social justice ambassador to do on the ground? Say I were a social justice ambassador, what would my role be, like, ideally?
So the role would be to support the PHRC. So for example, if we're having a beloved community tour, that ambassador would be able to help set up and organize and invite their community out to hear Executive Director Chad Lassiter give his information about the PHRC. So they would just work hand in hand with the PHRC and support events and opportunities that we have, and also support their community by giving materials.
Okay. So, Brittany, let me ask you this, and I didn't cover this earlier when I was talking about your roles, but given the advisory councils, are you serving as chair? Are both of you serving as chair of the councils, or what's your particular role within that council?
No, we don't serve in a leadership role. Our role is primarily to support them and to help them understand their role and their connection to the PHRC. There are officers. There's a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary of each council that provide the leadership, because we want to make sure this is locally driven and responsive to local needs, not driven by the agency.
Okay. So what are you finding? I know we talked a little bit about the issues you're hearing about, but do they change from council to council, or are they similar? For example, do you find that maybe a council in a particular area of the state has more housing issues than, say, someone else of another council, or there might be some education issues in this county, whereas this county has other issues? What are you both finding? And you could both jump in. Khera, why don't you go first?
For me, Brittany and I actually just had a leadership advisory council meeting maybe a week or two ago, but I was able to kind of see, in advisory council chairs were able to see that these issues were kind of happening in other communities as well, while they were conversing with other chairs. So I do think that the issues are relevant in most of the communities, and they are seeing the same issues, but I'm sure there is that kind of split off at some point as well, and Brittany wants to add to that.
Yeah.
Sure, I would agree. You know, there are a lot of issues that are universal across the state, challenges that are being seen in many communities. But I would say that our advisory councils are often made up of people with different interests. So it really depends who comprises that council. We're always seeking councils to be diverse and reflective of various communities, but some councils just, their members are maybe more active in the housing space, or active in supporting victims of domestic violence, or active in education. So depending on who's serving on the council, it might dictate kind of where they lean and where their interests lie, and how they address that issue.
And so I would imagine that in a council of this nature, you got to have some rules of governance. And can you talk a little bit about that structure, about how they run through a typical meeting kind of thing, the things that, not what they discuss, but how they go through that discussion?
Sure. So the bylaws really form the basis of what advisory councils can do. So it's a pretty standard meeting. The chair would open it, or the vice chair if the chair couldn't attend, review minutes and address issues. These meetings are open to the public, and we do have information on how people can find out more if they want to observe, maybe get involved. We're always looking for more advisory council members, so that they are public meetings and people can attend and get information about them as well if they have further interest in learning more.
Very good. And so now I'm going to get aspirational with you both. I mean, it's great. I'm sure that people can see that both of you are young and you're full of energy getting through this and doing a lot of traveling throughout the Commonwealth, I'm sure. So I want to ask, for yourselves in this social justice journey, what is your individual goal here at the PHRC? With doing this work, what's your individual goal, Khera?
So my individual goal is really just to connect with the community and form these relationships with community so that they feel comfortable coming to me or the PHRC in general and just expressing what concerns that they have. But my overall goal would just be to just try to allow equal opportunities for everyone and no matter skin color or, race, anything of that sort, and just allow for equal opportunity for all by building these connections with the community.
Brittany?
Yeah, I'd love to echo what Khera said because she said it so eloquently, but particularly in the housing space, everyone deserves to have a place that they can call home that's safe, that they're not kept out because of barriers such as, their skin color, their disability, whether they've got kids, their sex or their sexual orientation. We all deserve to have the things that we need to live healthy, successful lives. And that's what our agency is about. And that's what our advisory councils and other outreach efforts really seek to get out into the community and have real impact, not just talk about it, but actually support locally driven change as well. Excellent.
One more question with the little bit of time I have left, and that is, because I didn't cover this, if someone is interested, how does someone become a member of one of the advisory councils or this social justice ambassador program? What do they have to do? How do they start?
Well, I'd encourage them to start by, if they are interested in joining an advisory council, definitely check out a meeting, meet the chair, or contact Khera or myself. We'd be happy to provide them more information. But if they would want to actually join, they would submit a resume or a letter of interest to be approved by the commission to join.
Same question, but on the social justice ambassador program. Is it similar or?
For the Social Justice Ambassador Program, it is very similar. They would just submit an application, which can be found on our website under the Social Justice Ambassadors tab. They would fill out a resume, submit their resume, answer an application questions, and then they would be interviewed for the position.
I want to thank you both for your time. And I know the viewers don't know this, but these are two very stellar future components of the leadership of our agency, and we're very happy to have them with us and having them on this social justice journey. Thank you so much for the work that you do. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for joining us today. For more information on this topic, or if you believe that you've been a victim of discrimination in a housing transaction, you can visit us online at www.phrc.pa.gov or call us at 717-787-9780. We're also pretty easy to find online on Facebook, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And look out for our YouTube channel as well. That's it for this edition of PHRC Speaks. Until next time, take care, be good, and be fair to each other.
This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN.